Today on the Perception and Action podcast, a few updates on what's going on with me and the podcast, and an exciting announcement. My new book, The Follow-Up on How We Learn to Move, is here. So it's time for a call to action. Hey everyone. So on this episode, which will be a fairly brief one, I just wanted to give you a few updates about me and the podcast. And as I mentioned, tell you about my new book, which is, as you were listening to this, available now. So first off, if you follow me on social media, you probably already heard that I just started a new position with the Boston Red Sox. It's a position, my title is Skill Acquisition Specialist. So I'll be working over an extended period as working across the organization to try to infuse ideas of skill acquisition into the ecological approach into various different things, coaching, player development, the sports science department, how we use biomechanics, analytics department, which we should be measuring. So it's something I'm very, very excited about. It's something I've always really wanted to do. And as a few people mentioned when I posted about it, it is in some ways, I think it's a little bit of a groundbreaking position, right? Because I'm not a coach, right? I'm not a coach trying to apply skill acquisition theory. I'm coming in there as a theorist and a researcher and trying to apply this broad. And I'm not just working on one specific area. I'm going to try to apply it more broadly across the organization. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what I can accomplish and how much, how I can build on what the amazing coaches and the personnel already there, the staff that I had. So I'm very, very excited about it. And obviously, I'm not going to be able to tell you many of the details, but maybe I'll share some general thoughts on it as it goes along. The second thing I wanted to mention is talking about the podcast, how we're going to proceed. Obviously, my life's going to get a little bit busier with this new position. I am going to keep the podcast going strong. I'm not going to give up on that for sure. One of the things I'm going to add to it is to kind of take a little burden off of me for doing so much preparation on episodes and things like that. I'm going to do a few more interviews, right? So I'll still be doing the episodes where I review and summarize topic areas and things like that, or review new papers. I'll still be doing those. But I'm calling these coaching journeys, right? So what I'm going to do is interview coaches and learn about their experience with, in particular, using an ecological approach, constraints, etc., how they're kind of has changed as a coach and how they're continuing to explore and develop. And for this, I'm going to initially start with interviewing my Patreon supporters, right? They've been, so helpful to me in supporting the podcast. I wanted to, kind of give something back and let them get some exposure and share their experience. So I have quite a few of those lined up. If you're interested, you can go to my Patreon site, you can find, and eventually I'll open it up more broadly at some point, probably. So look for those in the future. As I said, that doesn't mean I'm not going to do the other types of episodes too. So that's coming in the new year, along with some really other exciting guests you'll be really interested to hear from and topics as well. So the last thing I wanted to mention, as I said, my new book's here. So it's called Learning to Optimize Movement, Harnessing the Power of the Athlete-Environment Relationship, right? And it's available on Amazon now in paperback and ebook form. A couple of people asked me about audiobook. Yes, it's coming. I'm going to be recording that over the next little while. So it's probably going to be a month or so before that will be available, right? So this book is meant to be a follow-up to How We Learn to Move. Right? The way that I think of it is How We Learn to Move was about basic coordination, right? How you come up with a coordination pattern to serve a tennis ball, focusing on some of the key principles like variability, repetition without repetition, constraints, attractors, and so on, right? So that was basic coordination. And I'm kind of fitting this around Newell's model, the idea that we go from coordination to control to optimization, right? So what I'm trying to do in this book is move beyond just simple coordination towards actually getting the best out of yourself, right? In terms of the constraints. So I'm going to talk, and next episode, I'm going to go detailed chapter by chapter and show you what the book's about and talk about what the book's about. But in the book, I've tried to, as best I can, talk in simple ways about things like specifying information, metastability, biotensegrity, right? So some pretty complex concepts. but I want to show you how these things, and really, as the book implies, I'm focusing on the relationship, right? And one of the key messages that I try to make in the book is that there's intelligence throughout the relationship, not just in the brain, right? There's intelligence in the environment through the way the environment structures information. And the ideas of direct perception. There's structure. There's intelligence in our body, right? The way it creates tension and the metastability and things like that, right? So that's kind of one of the main messages in the book. And then I end up by talking about some of my favorite tools for practice design. So that, as I said, next week I'll go through a chapter by chapter overview of what the book's about. But it's out there now if you want to grab it, and I'll be talking more about it in the future. So that's it for the updates. As I said, that episode will be coming next week. Then I'll probably take a couple of weeks off from the holiday, and then we'll be into the new year, which will be the 8th year of the Perception Action podcast. So as I said, I have no intention of stopping it, just kind of maybe changing a little bit of the format and things to kind of reduce some of the burden on me. Okay, so thanks for joining me. Okay, that's it for today's episode. Remember, you can contact me at robgray@asu.edu or follow me on Twitter at ShakyWeights. To find out more about the podcast, please check out perceptionaction.com. Finally, to support the podcast and receive bonus materials, including a monthly meeting of coaches, please head over to patreon.com/perceptionaction. This is Rob Gray from ASU. Cheers for now, and keep them coupled. Gone straight away.